Hi everyone, my name is Sara Moss and welcome back to Secret Struggles. Almost every young kid I know, and even most high school aged athletes for that matter, have had the dream of playing sports competitively at the next level. I know I did when I was younger. For most people, this is one of the biggest accomplishments that they will have and work for in their lives. For years and years, people will work day in and day out for the sole purpose of accomplishing this goal. What my question for you is, do you think that all the time and effort is worth it, or do you think that these young kids sacrifice too much? Often, they sacrifice even more than you know. Nowadays, it's very common to find collegiate student athletes that struggle with their mental health because they are so focused on workouts, practices, games, and schoolwork that they forget to take proper care of themselves and do activities that they find fun. I wanted to see if this applied to student athletes here at Boise State. As a student of Boise State University, I personally know or have classes with a lot of student athletes. In particular, I have a lot of friends that play baseball and lacrosse. Whenever I see them, they always seem to look tired or busy, which I can only assume is from their hectic schedules. When I was asked to research a community for this podcast, they were the first group that snapped into my mind. This gave me the opportunity to sit down and talk to them about how they were liking their college experience, which is a question that I have always wondered about. Many of them said that they don't get enough sleep and often feel overworked, which, according to the article written by A.A. Brower about sleep and health among college student athletes, sleep deprivation is way more common than you would think and can affect the mental health of students along with the physical health of these students. Many student athletes struggle with lack of sleep because of their overly busy days. These overly busy days can lead to hyperactivity in the brain at night, making it hard to sleep, or even if they are sleeping, hard to fully rest. I sent out a personal interview to some of the members of the Boise State baseball team. In this interview, I asked a multitude of questions about mainly three categories: their social life, schoolwork, and how they handle stress. Cole Posey, a freshman shortstop for the Broncos out of Texas, explained to me that even though he gets around 6 hours of sleep a night, he still often wakes up feeling groggy and has a hard time starting his day. He said, "I'm used to getting 8 hours of sleep in high school, and coming to college and starting 6 a.m. workouts and then having classes and practices until 8 at night can be rough on someone's body. And people wonder why we always wear sweatpants every day." And he laughed. "There's no extra time to get ready." He then paused for a long time in between his sentences before adding, "I have a hard time falling asleep after I've been in a slump or not performing well on the field. I find it hard to shut my mind off at night, which leads to my grogginess." Diving more into my research, I found an article called Fear of Failure in Student Athletes, written by Sam Sager. In this article, the author talks about how the fear of failure in sports can predict antisocial behavior in the university community of student athletes. These tendencies tend to show up just as much as males and they do as females, if not slightly more in male athletes. This fear of failure is a shame-based achievement motive that is instilled in you from the young age of 5 to 9, which is when many student athletes start playing sports. Many of these athletes are motivated to succeed because of this fear. They are so scared of making a mistake that they shut themselves off from others and spend all their time working on their skills. They also talked about how many student athletes also apply this to their schoolwork. They tend to shut themselves off from others until all their work is done. With the daily tasks many student athletes have, school, practices, work, they tend not to have time for other social activities that they might otherwise enjoy if they didn't play sports. Braden Spears, a pitcher only for Boise State, was the next student athlete I interviewed. I asked him about how having a good game versus having a bad game affects his mental health or mindset for the rest of the day or the following night. His answer shocked me. He said, "I feel so much pressured to perform well when I pitch. There are so many factors and things going on in my head that no one even knows about. When I'm up there on the mound, I not only represent Boise State and my team, but I represent my hometown and all the people that are rooting for me in the stands and at home on the TV. When I have a bad game or allow a lot of hits, I feel like I have let all those people down, and that is a really huge strain on my attitude and mental health. I began to feel curious and both worried about how he deals with his stress at the time. And then I asked him what some of his coping mechanisms are for when he has a bad game, and he answered, I block everything and everyone out for a couple hours. I put my phone down, and I think about what I did wrong and how I can improve. Even though I'm upset, I try not to beat myself up for too long because I have to start training and preparing for my next game. Back to my interview with Posey, when I asked him if he felt like he was missing out on anything with his college experience so far, he responded with, I feel like I'm missing out on the true college experience because I'm killing myself over sports and school. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it. I just feel like I'm really missing out. This quote just shows a little bit of how those tendencies can lead to antisocial behavior, not because they don't want to go out and make other friends, but because they are just too busy to do so. They are working so hard to reach their goal that they often forget about other activities that would otherwise bring them joy. He continued on to tell me about how his only friends in college are really on the baseball team and the people who live around him in his dorm, and he feels like he doesn't really have a lot of time to make friends outside of his teammates. The final subject that I wanted to touch on in this podcast before I let you guys go is how many student athletes also hold jobs or participate in other activities around campus. And by doing so, they greatly increase the amount of things they have to do in a day. My third interview that I conducted was with a freshman lacrosse player, Jack Turbeville. Jack, along with being a student athlete, is a present and involved member in his fraternity here at Boise State. One of the questions that I asked him is about what his schedule looks like on a typical day. He followed by answering, I normally start classes around 9 in the morning, and then I don't finish until 2. I eat lunch, do homework, take a nap, have dinner, and then practice from 9 to 12 p.m. After practice, I shower, do any homework I have left, and then get to bed around 1:30, 2 a.m., and then it all repeats the next day. On the days that he doesn't have practice or games, he spends extra free time going to fraternity events such as their Philanthropy Week fundraisers. He also holds a position on their executive council as the intramural chair. I asked about some of the pros and cons that came with having such a busy schedule, and his answer was, Pros. Being a part of 2 different groups of guys has helped him make a lot of friends. Playing a sport keeps him in shape and forces him to work out, and he feels very involved and present on campus. The cons that he mentioned was that he doesn't have a lot of time to study, so when he does, it normally cuts into his sleep schedule. He also doesn't have time to make connections really outside of the 2 groups, which he said was probably okay, but he feels like he still needs some friends that he can just chill out with. He seemed concerned about becoming burnt out on a sport that he has committed so much time to playing. Because Jack has such a busy schedule, I asked him a question that really genuinely surprised me. I asked him that if he had to give something up, either playing a sport or being involved in communities on campus like Greek life and other clubs, what he would choose to give up. He answered, If I had to choose something to give up, I feel like I would give up playing sports. Just because I've been playing sports my whole life and I'm only in college for a short time, and I don't want to miss out on any of the typical experiences that come with college. All in all, many good benefits come from playing sports in college. Built-in friends, a consistent schedule, work ethic, and oftentimes extra help with academics. What you don't see is how many students secretly struggle with mental health problems like sleeping disorders or feeling burnt out from all the work that they complete every day. This side of a student athlete's life isn't advertised, and often kids feel unprepared for their new lives as collegiate student athletes. Being able to recognize these struggles with the help of coaches, teachers, families, and friends, and knowing how to better support these student athletes will help maintain a strong mental health, which will in turn keep them motivated for school and sports in a different and healthy way. Thank you for joining me today, and if you know or have a student athlete in your life, give them an extra hug, because you never know when they'll need it. See you next week on Secret Struggles, and thank you for listening.